Oh, the four kids didn't finish Mew Mew Power. This is told in Tilly's perspective. Please don't let her for this. Thanks for understanding.
Don't forget to subscribe!
I didn't count on this before my very first kiss. This isn't the path we choose, but there's so much we could lose. So team up, are you up for it? Put your hand in mine, it's a perfect fit. Team up, cause it's up to us, but it's hard to save the world when you're falling in love. If we band together like birds of a feather, we'll be friends forever, going up, up, up. Team up, cause it's not too late. We could save the day if we collaborate. Team up, cause it's up to us, but it's hard to save the world. Yeah, it's hard to save the world when you're falling in love.
Good morning, everybody. This is Mavis Vermillion, and welcome back to our review series of the Team Smash Holiday Specials. In this video, we'll all be reviewing Mew Mew Power, Tokyo Mew Mew, Episode 37, The Shining Tear, celebrating Christmas with just the two of us. Let's
get this party started!
Ah, spoiler alert!
The episode begins with a Christmas wreath appearing at a door, and here we find Kiki in a reindeer costume saying that Cafe Mew Mew's Christmas cakes are the best, and she has been entertaining customers by giving them a conversation. And for some reason, Wesley said the Christmas cakes are ready now, and Zoe compliments on the hat, and Wesley responds that they all made them with happiness in the mud that was handmade. And Bridget serves some customers the deluxe pudding a la mode Christmas edition. And it's enough for 5 people as well. Renee notices a customer was having a hard time deciding on what the food she served was. And the customer asked if it was the Christmas card, and she said it was okay, so Renee walks off. Karina was glad that the cafe was doing well, but it's so busy it makes her head spin as she's drinking tea by herself. And Zoe asks why she's drinking. And for Wesley, he thinks that things are supposed to stay busy until Christmas, and he tells everyone to keep up the good work. And for some reason, Kiki thinks that who's going to be wearing the reindeer outfit until Christmas? The answer? It turns out that Wesley actually has made 4 other reindeer costumes as well. And much to Karina's disappointment, and everyone is just preparing themselves for the best Christmas ever. And it's well prepared. To be honest, what kind of obstacles will await? That is indeed a good question, Nejire. And it starts to snow at night, and it was most likely a beautiful sight. Mark and Zoe were outside, and Zoe explains that it must be a white Christmas. However, Zoe inevitably sneezed, and Mark eventually decides to keep her warm, and Zoe eventually blushes, and it was most likely a romantic sight to behold, because this is one of the most beautiful moments of Christmas, and they even kiss each other in the snow, which is also a matching feeling to romance of this spectacular white Christmas. And for some reason, Zoe thought if she kissed someone, she would turn into a cat. And turned out to be true, but it was most likely revealed to be a nightmare that Zoe was having as she was daydreaming in school. But the teacher asked what's the matter with Zoe. And Zoe eventually just apologizes for her mistake. After school was over, Zoe and Mark met each other at the park when Mark was reading, and as they both sat down on the same bench, Zoe asked Mark what his plans were today. He doesn't even have practice today, so he decided to drop by the library and head home, while Zoe was working at the cafe. And Mark says that's how it is. However, Zoe eventually just is beginning to think about something. And so, she prepares the question. What kind of book are you reading today, Mark? And the book Mark was reading is all about the recycling of trash. And as for Zoe, she and her mother are trying to sort out the trash, and they told the neighbors, and they would like to help by recycling. And it's a difficult thing, in fact. So, Mark even points out that such civil-minded activities are more difficult than you'd think. People start out willingly, but if they push themselves too hard, they can't keep it up for long. But once you get started like that, it's not easy to quit and give up. And you end up feeling guilty. And it's not just the garbage that's a problem, it's our lifestyle is to help the earth eventually. And Mark was crestfallen as he was saying that everyone knows it. And he doesn't even think that anybody could stop, but it seems impossible to give up the pleasant life we all have now. Giving up our modern lifestyle would be so stressful that society might even collapse. We shouldn't even push ourselves so hard. We just have to do what we know we have to do, little by little, every single day.
Mark then apologizes for talking too long, and Zoe suggests that he should try hard at his own pace. And Zoe thinks that she might be wrong. But for Mark, however, he responds that Zoe is a genius sometimes. And he even says that there's going to be a huge Christmas tree up at the town. And Zoe eventually notices that she hasn't even heard about it. So Mark suggests that they would both go see it together at Christmas Eve. And when Zoe tells everyone about it at Cafe Mew Mew, she was eventually just busy cleaning. And her friends eventually were just very confused about it, because Zoe promised immediately. Zoe is just feeling very happy that it's going great, and she decides to make sure that it all goes well for the viewing of the Christmas tree in town. Zoe suggests that she just wants the day off on Christmas Eve, so Renee, Bridget, and Kiki and Karina think it's okay. And Zoe thanks her friends, and they have to consider that enemies may show up, even Predicites. And how do they know they wouldn't turn up late again? However, Karina is very upset that Zoe's not even listening, because she's just busy distracting herself. Because she's just super excited about seeing the Christmas tree with Mark, and it brings out a lot of happiness. And Zoe eventually just stops, realizing something. She eventually was still as a statue, and she eventually was thinking back on what had happened, and it was not before the screen fades to white.
it was revealed that Zoe actually was just feeling crestfallen, thinking that she's been lying to Mark most of the time. And she got used to it. And Mark was just kind, and Zoe was just too independent. And she thinks that she's the worst. And Renee tries to talk some sense into Zoe. She eventually explained that she decided that she wanted to go Christmas shopping. And for some reason, the store was eventually just closed. Sadly, which was more bad news. And for Zoe, she tried to find some antiques. And as for Renee, she asked if there was any suggestions. And as for that, Renee asked, why do people give presents? They entrust their feelings to a thing, because feelings are visible to the eyes. And Renee explains that each person has their own hopes. Which part of your heart do you want to open to him? And Zoe eventually doesn't even know. And as for Renee, she said, in other words, you can't even see it for yourself in your own heart. Because in that case, you need something to reflect it. So the present is something for you as well, Zoe. And Zoe eventually notices that what Renee was saying is true, because there was something shining. It was an aquamarine teardrop shaped like jewel that caught the attention. And they were the tears for Christmas. And it was also known as Kurismasu no Namida in the Japanese version. So they eventually decided to buy it, and she expressed gratitude. And to be honest, it's actually just one of the most iconic Renee Roberts scenes ever, giving advice to one of her friends and helping them out. Karina, Bridget, and Kiki meet up with Renee, and they decide to ask what is going on at the cafe. So Wesley and Elliot were eventually just working hard on taking over the tasks, and he eventually just was a little skeptical about it, but then he decides to smile. Back at home, Zoe stares at the tears of Christmas, thinking to herself, at first I was happy to watch you from far away. Just thinking and talking about you with my friends made me very happy. When we first got to talk, I still thought it would never ever work out. And I was prepared to face rejection. But you said it was all okay. And I was so happy, I couldn't handle my excitement much longer. In our first date, walking right next to you, and hearing your voice. And all these things made my heart pound so much faster than ever. However, now, she can't quit thinking about what happened. She was thinking if she's becoming greedy. And as she still thinks to herself, Minnie Mew shows concern for her. And as for Zoe, she eventually just was tired of Minnie Mew pestering her. When it was Christmas Day, Kiki had done some fortune telling. Well, the first client was Zoe, and Kiki decides to do a love test to see how she and Mark match up. And it is about to start. And the result is 100%. And that was love. Zoe thanked Kiki for the fortune telling, and she states that she's going to leave early. And she notices that both Karina and Bridget are wearing the reindeer costumes. And Karina was still upset at the fact that the costumes were just embarrassing. So Renee said it's all up to Zoe because she needed to face the music, because
truth be told, she really wants to make sure the confessions go smooth. Zoe is staring at the bench at the park where she and Mark sat down until Mark showed up, and Zoe apologizes to Mark, and she decides that she has to go straight home, and she runs off, and Mark chases after her as Zoe just runs off crying back to her house. That night, the Tears for Christmas meaning was discovered. The tears was up to the lovers who own this. But if the feeling of love is true love, it will be changed into a shining tear. And Zoe thinks that Mark is so great. He's good at sports, and he's smart, and he knows a lot about the environment, and he plans to work in the field in the future and studies every day. And as for Zoe, she thinks that she's nothing. Nothing at all. And as Zoe continues to ponder to herself, she wonders how good she is for Mark. How is she going to be with him? But she always wants to be with him, and it was all that she wanted in her life. And a single teardrop that shined was seen falling. And as for Mark, he says we should just do what we know what we have to do, little by little, via flashback. And as Zoe drifts off to sleep, she reminds that Mark always looks at everything completely, and she will also face him directly. And she plans to do that because it's because she always loves him, and she really does. The next morning, Mark gets a call from Zoe saying, "Sorry about yesterday. I'll be waiting at the time, and at the place we promised." And Mark eventually just gets the message, and he starts to smile. Zoe was waiting outside, but she came to her early. And she thinks to herself, "It's okay." And she feels the wind through her hair, and it was beautiful. In the city, they were about to light up the biggest Christmas tree. And the news reporter asked the cameraman to adjust the microphone. And for some reason, Sardin, Tarb, and Bren have appeared, about to cause mischief. And they were about to get their party started. Zoe eventually notices something wasn't up in flames. So Wesley and Elliot noticed that there was something on the attack. A predacite was already in the loops, and Zoe is approaching the aliens at high speed, and Zoe decided to hurry faster. And so she proceeded to bring her transformation via power pendant mutamorphosis. Meanwhile, at a train station, Mark is already in a crowded place until he sees on TV that there was people floating in the air destroying things. And Mark discovers that it was Zoe. And it was up for Mew Zoe to save the day. Mew Mew style, Mew Mew grace, Mew Mew power in your face! And it was most likely a pretty intense battle. And it was also pretty fun though, because honestly, it was perfect because it matches the Christmas aspect. But unfortunately, the episode ended in a cliffhanger. We are deeply sorry.
Did you know?
And also, there's no trivia. We are deeply sorry.
That just makes no fucking sense. I mean, it's just bullshit.
No! So we all give this episode
Of Mew Mew Power a peak 6 out of 5. And this episode's rating is 11 out of 10. Next time...
Thank you so much for watching, everyone. What do you think? If you appreciated it, please be sure to smash that like button, and be sure to follow my social media platforms in the description below, and the Team Life Flight's fandom channels please be sure to leave a comment below and give us your open-minded thoughts. We here at Team Lifelight's fan dubs do not condone harassment, violence, or trolls allowed. Or otherwise, Red Hoek and Comedy Central's The Ren and Stimpy Show will haunt you down to the ends of the Shadow Realm. So please be sure to subscribe to our channels and click the notification bell. You'll never miss a video the second it goes live on YouTube and Google. With all that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Happy holidays, and have a happy new year, and best wishes for all!